Hope you're doing well and your preparations are going well too. I'm pretty sure that most of you would be aware by now that IPMAT 2021 question papers are out. So here we are with this video for you where we'll be solving each and every question of the verbal ability section of it. Those of you who have already gone through it once can check your answers here with us and understand the reasoning behind them. And those of you who have not can do it here with us. So let's begin. The first question here is about the reading comprehension. Now, for the actual exam, what I suggest is that you do it at the end with a free and clear mind when you've done the rest of your paper. That's because we all know, right, that RCs can be time consuming and tiresome. So it's better if you keep them for the end and do the easier portion first. But here, since we are doing it in a flow, we'll be going with the given order only. So let's just get started. So we've learned before too that it's always better to go through the question first and then come to the passage, because when we're reading the passage, we can have those questions in mind and it becomes easier to look for the answers. So let's just begin with the questions here too. That's the right approach, I guess. So let's start with it. So first question here is, the writer of the passage suggests that. Now we have certain options, but as we can see from the question asks for us to, summarize the whole passage in just one single line. We have to choose one from the four options. Now for that, of course, we need to read the whole passage. Then only it's possible that we do it right? Because that would be the right way. So here, instead of reading the whole passage, I'll just provide you with a summary of it, what each paragraph says, so that you have an idea of it and we can do it together. So here's what the passage is about. It's mainly about identifying news or arguments that are fake and dubious. It talks about the education of people in ancient as well as modern times in terms of this aspect only. So the first para, starts with Roman and Victorian era, which had such kind of education about identifying what is fake and what is genuine. Now coming to the schools in Italy, like it comes to the contemporary world too, and there it talks about mainly Italy and Israel, where they are teaching courses specially on how to spot fake news. So that's what the first para is about. Coming to the second paragraph talks about the purpose of such courses. So why do we need such courses? So it mainly says that there is the youth too. They are younger citizens of nations. So they are the future voters. They'll choose the leadership of the nations. So it's very important for them to identify the real motives of the people and not just fall for any lies that they say. So especially it talks about social media because it's very widespread now and it's very easy to spread for news to spread very quickly. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be genuine. It just spreads very, very quickly because of social media. And it has a genuine power. Like it can alter your opinions, form new opinions, shatter your beliefs which you had earlier. So it is quite powerful and that's why you can't underestimate it. So that's why it becomes even more important for the younger generation now to understand the importance of, differentiating between what's genuine and what's fake. Now coming to the last paragraph, which is the third one, it mainly draws a contrast between the traditional media and the social media. And this is done in terms of the balance that they have. So traditional media is said to have a lot of balance because it is said that it attempts to tell the both sides of a story. Like they have taken the example of a newspaper. So in a newspaper, it has various sections and columns. So these sections and columns tell the various sides of a single story. That's how there's a balance maintained. Whereas in social media, the user is the editor himself. So he can put out anything that he likes, anything that he wants. And also social media has certain algorithms which show more of what you like. So instead of, showing you different various sides of a story, it just reinforces your biases, reinforces your beliefs. And that's how you just keep on believing what you already do. There's no other side to it as for you. So that's why ultimately the conclusion which is drawn here is that it is very important for young citizens like us to look for more, go beyond what is given to us and not just simply believe any sort of info that we receive from anywhere. That's not the right way to do things. So now this is what the passage is about. Now coming to the question again, the writer of the passage suggests that. So the first is the purpose of education in early times was very different from what it is now. Now this can be drawn from the first passage, right? The purpose of education is it really different? Because we saw like in the ancient Roman and Victorian era too, it was the same, identifying between fake and genuine. And even in the modern era, Italy, Israel, it's the same. So there's no any difference. So that's why first option is eliminated automatically. Coming to the second option, there are similarities in the aims of education in early times and those of today. Now, this is what we read in the first paragraph. As I said earlier, Roman and Victorian era, and then coming to the modern Israel and Italy. So this could be our right answer, but let's just go through the other ones too, right? So the purpose of education in early times was to help students attain a position of privilege. Now, position of privilege, this is not something we've discussed, this is not given anywhere in the passage, this is not something we've talked about. So we eliminate this option too. And last, as times have changed, the basis of education has expanded. Now, is it really right? Because again, basis of education, it's not given anywhere in the passage. Even if we take, basis of education could be in terms of this identification of genuine and fake. Again, it's not highlighted as a basis of education, and its expansion has not been given anywhere. So if we eliminate it too, and we go for the right option, which is our B option here. So this is B. Now, coming to the second question, the passage points out that an important difference between traditional media and social media is that. Now, we have to identify the difference, important difference. So, as we can recall, this was given in third passage where we saw the contrast between traditional media and social media in terms of balance. That's what we've talked about in the passage. So, we look for that answer. Social media reaches more people. Now, this is not false, it's true rather. But again, we don't have to draw from our prior knowledge, rather focus on the passage and what's given in the passage. So we automatically eliminate this option. Coming to the second one, traditional media tries to present different points of view. This is true. We read, right, about the newspaper, which have different columns and shows different points of view. So this is correct. This could be the answer, but let's go through C and D too. So social media is more balanced in its report. Completely wrong, right? Because this is the opposite of what we read. Social media is rather imbalanced and traditional media is balanced. So this is something that we eliminate. Coming to, it is easier to spread fake stories through traditional media. Now, that's also wrong because that's what we read about social media. Through social media, stories can be spread very easily. It doesn't matter if they're fake or genuine. But from traditional media, it's as comparatively is difficult. So here also our right answer is B. So I'll mark it here too. Okay, so coming to the third question. Social media is dangerous in its ability to influence opinions in readers through. Now, what are we talking about here? How is it dangerous, social media? It's choice of news items which are presented. This could be right because we read about the bias that it reinforces among people. It just shows, it chooses those items which are preferable to people, which they like to read about, not different sides of it. So A could be the right answer, but let's see. B1, it's balanced reporting of wide-ranging stories. Again, completely false because as we said, social media is imbalanced. So this could not be the right answer. Third one, its ability to guide the reader to motivated conclusions. Now, this is again not given anywhere in the passage. It's just something that you could, infer from it, but not exactly drawn from the passage. So this is also eliminated. And the last one, the creation of interest by using dubious facts. Now, it's not anywhere given that, social media helps in creation of interest. It's just, it could be, dubious facts could be shown through social media, but creation of interest we haven't read about. So again, here the answer would be A part because we talked about the biases and the choice of news items which are presented to the reader. So that's why here the answer is A. Coming to the fourth question, which is a grammar based actually. So vested interest given in para 2, what does it mean? So now again, for those of you who know what it genuinely means, the meaning of it literally, you can just go through the options and you'll know that the answer is self-serving intentions. But for those of you who do not know this, you have to go to the passage. You can go to the para 2, read this first line where it's given vested interest. So the purpose of these courses is to ensure that public debate, debates that are held for public, particularly during election campaigns, is not hijacked by vested interests. So what are these vested interests? Now we have to see that the election campaigns are not hijacked by vested interests. Public debates which are meant for the public. So it can be seen that, popular interest, it cannot mean, because again, if it was for popular interest, it's a good option, right? For popular interest, that's what we need. That's what's the ideal situation. But that's not what's happening here. We have to prevent it. So popular interest could not be the right answer. Hidden purposes, again, it could be, but just see which thing's a more appropriate one here. Self-serving intentions, because we're talking about the public sphere, or the hidden purposes. And last, again, the profitable motives is automatically eliminated because again, we are talking about, we can see from the tone of the passage, right, that there it should be something negative, something that, we have to prevent from happening. So profitable motives, why would we want to prevent it? So that's why either it could be hidden purposes or self-serving intentions. But as we read and as we saw, self-serving intention seems more appropriate here. So we'll go with the option C. That's the right answer here. Now, coming to the fifth question. The antonym for spurious, para 1 is. Now again, for those of you who know what spurious means, literally it means just anything that's fake or not true, not really true. So the antonym for it would be genuine. But for those of you who do not, we can go to the para 1 and see where it's given. So it's given here, spurious arguments and facts. From ancient Rome up to the Victorian era, a training in logic and rhetoric was meant to help privileged young men recognize spurious arguments and facts. So they have to recognize these kind of arguments and facts, right? Again, has to be something negative. It could not be positive because there's a genuine need for it to identify what kind of arguments these are. So that's why and again, reading the whole passage, you can understand that's what the passage is talking about as we saw through the summary. So here we can understand that spurious means fake, and hence the antonym of it would be genuine, which is option D here. So that's it. Last question, sixth one. The writer of the passage called social media the present day version of the Roman Forum because it is a space for now carrying out political propaganda, discussing ideas, nurturing political ambitions, or spreading spurious arguments. Now again, the whole passage is talking about spurious arguments, how to identify them, what's the importance of identifying them, why do we need to do that. So when you see this kind of option, you automatically, your mind should go directly that's what the passage is about, spreading spurious arguments. So that should be the right answer here. And that's why he's compared Roman Forum to the present day, like the social media to the present day version of Roman Forum, because that's what used to happen there in the Roman Forum. Arguments used to be circulated which were not true really, and it was important for people to identify. And it is the same today as we are in the passage one. So that's why the answer here also is our option B. So that's your reading comprehension for the first question of this BA section of the paper. Now, let's move on to the next question, which is the 28th one. Complete the following sentences by choosing the appropriate word or phrase from the options given below. So let's start with the first one. I guess the question is pretty easy to understand. So let's just see. The impatient and intolerant mother made every effort to domineer her children, dominate the child's lives, denominate her children, or dominion her children. Now, this can also be done simply through either if your grammar is that good and you understand the meaning of each and every word, it's very simple then. Otherwise, you can just eliminate the wrong ones and you'll get to the right one. So here we see domineer her children. It seems right? Because domineer obviously means like to be tyrannical or be a dominating kind of person, but in a slightly negative manner. So that seems the right one, but let's go through the BCD too. So B, dominate the child's lives. Now that could have been right if it was life. Child, we are it's singular, right? We're talking about single child and his lives. It just doesn't make sense simply grammatically. So that's wrong. B option is eliminated. Coming to C, denominate her children. Now denominate simply means it can mean either in monetary terms where to maybe just be expressed in some monetary terms, or it could just to call names or something. But that's not what's happening here. Impatient and intolerant mother won't call names of her children or something. So that's why denominate her children just doesn't make sense. It's also wrong. Last, domineer her children. Dominion is not even a verb, it's a noun. So it can't be used this way. This is grammatically wrong. So again, the option here that we choose is A because that makes sense grammatically and is the most suitable one. So here it's A. Coming to the second question. To avoid the ecological issues, scientists and government agencies consider how sustainable development. Now this is pretty simple. Affects the citizens, is effective to the citizens, or is affectionate to the citizens. Affects the citizens, again wrong, because affects is not a verb, it's a noun. Grammatically, it makes no sense, so it would be automatically eliminated. Affects the citizens is the proper grammar, and it makes sense here. So affects the citizens should be our choice, but let's just see. C is effective to the citizens. Now also, it's not effective is not the right way to say it. Is effective could be maybe that could have been the right option, but it's just a longer way of saying the same thing. Affects the citizens. So that doesn't make it the most suitable one. So we'll eliminate it too. Coming to D is affectionate to the citizen. Now affectionate has a completely different meaning. It's talking about just love and having a certain kind of feeling towards someone. But that's not what we're talking about here clearly. So that's why our option that we'd go with is B, how it affects the citizens. So it's B. Now coming to the third one. I now have more productive time during the day because I keep the office gossips a foot away, at arm's length, at base length, or out of the harm's way. Now out of all these three, I think these are pretty clear in the meaning only. A foot away, like at a distance, but that's not really that of a saying. At arm's length, that means like keeping a distance from something when you don't want to indulge in it. So you keep them at an arm's length. So that makes sense grammatically and it's an idiom too. So that fits well. At base length, again, not really an idiom. So we'll not pay much heed to it. And lastly, out of harm's way. Out of harm's way is just like keeping it safe. That's not what we're doing here, right? We're not keeping the gossip safe. So that's why the right option here would be again B, which is at an arm's length. So that's what it's here. Now, coming to the fourth question. We need to cut down on expenses so that we are able to. Now we are cutting down on expenses. Why could we do that? To make ends meet. Make ends meet, like to meet our basic survival needs, just to survive basically. That's what it means. So that makes sense, right? We need to cut our expenses so that we are able to survive, because the expenses are growing and growing with time. So that's why make ends meet makes sense. But let's see others too. Tie up the loose ends. It just means to finish some unfinished tasks. So that's not what we're doing here, right? That's not why we cut our expenses. So this is eliminated. Be more philanthropic. Now again, be more philanthropic, do more humanitarian work. That's not what we cut down our expenses for. So again, it's also eliminated. Last, be tax compliant. Now again, why would we cut our expenses for that? Just to become tax compliant. So the most appropriate one here is make ends meet. So we choose that. And fifth one, a portion of the house collapsed because the contractor dashed and built it with very poor quality material. So short change places, cut corners, bit the bullet, made a fortune. So obviously, like when you read it, if you know the meaning of these idioms, short change places is just, doing something in short, or doing something like at a lesser in terms of what was promised. So that's not what's happening here, because he used a poor quality material and the house collapsed because of it. So it could be one of the one, but the most suitable, if we see, would be cut corners, because cut corners means to compromise on something just to do it easily, quickly, or in a rush. So that's why cut corners makes more of a sense here. Last, bit the bullet, just to do something because you were procrastinating for so long and you just finally decided to do it. No, that's not why it would be of poor quality and the house would collapse. And last, made a fortune, because the contractor made a fortune and built it with very poor quality material. No sense, right? So that's why we'll go with option B, which is cut corners. And the last one, I guess, last one for this question, sixth one. Our team has won every single match that they have played since January. They seem to be. Now, rolling in luck, rolling in money, don't make sense. They don't make sense, because just because of luck or just because of money, you don't win every single match. So it's not rolling in luck or rolling in money, rather on a roll. They are on a roll. They seem to be on a roll, because that's what means, like when you are just in it and you're doing it flow by flow and it's just happening for you, like you're putting in your efforts, but you're just doing it. So that's why the team seems to be on a roll. So that's what makes sense grammatically here. And the last one, on a roller coaster. Again, no idiom, it has no meaning. It has no meaning. So that's why they seem to be on a roll. That's the right answer here. So we'll go for C. So moving on to the next question, which is the 29th one. Here the question asks, choose the alternative so that the underlined part of the sentence is rendered correct. So we've got an underlined line and we just have to check which is the more appropriate one as compared to it. So let's read the small paragraph that we've been given. Other politicians may have claims to seniority over their peers based upon their accomplishments and their ability to lead campaigns. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is often described as merely being a junior member of the House of Representatives, has an unparalleled seniority over all of them by virtue of her prowess in social media management. Now, as merely being a junior member of the House of Representatives. Now, just go through the ABCD option once and you'll see that there's no need for using merely, being. It's just, making it more elongated, and it's not even required, it's unnecessary. So that's why when we read all the options, we find out that D, which is as a mere junior member of the House of Representatives. That makes sense, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is often described as a mere junior member of the House of Representatives, has an unparalleled seniority. So that makes sense, and it's not even more elongated, it's not using any words unnecessarily. So that's why the right option here would be D part. When you read all the options, you'll see, I'm not reading it just to, be time efficient, but you can see it for yourself once. So coming to the second one. Although the coastal city of Kundarpur was once home to a flourishing maritime trade, their economy has been dependent in more recent years on the cotton, textile and sugar industries. So now, first of all, what is there used for? City of Kundarpur, right? Now, that's why if you're using it for city of Kundarpur, we don't have to use there. The right thing that we'd use there, the right pronoun would be its. So that's why we can see like there are only two options which are using its, one with an apostrophe and one without. So C and D are automatically eliminated because though and there, they don't make sense there. Rather, it's now again, it's with an apostrophe, just make it is economy had dependent. Now again, it makes no sense. So we'll eliminate it directly. And last, we are left with just P, trade. Its economy has in more recent years depended on the cotton, textile, and sugar industry, which makes sense, right? Which is the right way to say it. So that's why B is the right option here. Okay. So coming to the third one, due to the progress in the field of modern medicine and advances in nutrition and hygiene, less people die every year from infectious diseases than ever before. Now, less people die every year from infectious diseases than ever before. So than here, it's used then, but that's not the right way, right? We are comparing than ever before. We are comparing before to the times now. So that's why than here has to be the one with the A. Then means like after something, or then this happened, then that happened. But here we are comparing. That's why we'll use than with an A. So that's why A and D are automatically eliminated because they're using then, and we'll just choose between C and D. Now, fewer people die every year from infectious diseases than ever before. A similar way of saying it, just less. And of course, with people, you can't use less, right? Because people can't be measured. They are counted. They are countable now. So that's why fewer is the more suitable one here. So fewer people, and again, every year, fewer people die from infectious diseases than have ever before. Now this one, D part, have ever before, that's creating more of a balance, than ever before, like whatever before. But than have ever before, like fewer people die from infectious diseases than have died ever before. So that makes more sense. It gives more of clarity to us and understanding what the statement is trying to mean. So that's why the more appropriate one is the every year. Fewer people die from infectious diseases than have ever before. And that's why the right option here would be D.